Over the last few billion years, Earth has been smashed by asteroids, slammed into other planets, and frozen solid more times than we can count. Not to mention, it's been ruled by all sorts of bizarre creatures. Sounds wild, right? Going from a literal death trap to this stunning blue marble we call home is the craziest survival story in the universe. But wait, did you know that billions of years ago, the exact spot where you're sitting right now used to be a roaring ocean of molten lava? Buckle up, because right now, we're fast forwarding through 4.5 billion years of Earth's history in exactly 12 minutes. Let's get it started. If we want a quick tour of our planet's history, we must start from the very beginning. Before the planet existed, the solar system consisted entirely of a massive rotating cloud of gas and dust. Approximately 4.6 billion years ago, a nearby stellar explosion triggered a violent, unstoppable gravitational collapse. The center compressed, heated rapidly, and ignited to form the sun. And just like that, our sun was born. Once our star was born, all the matter in the outer reaches of the spinning disk began to clump together. As they gathered more matter, they grew larger and more spherical. In the colder regions of the solar system, these masses were primarily composed of ice, liquids, and gases. Closer to the sun, all the rocky material formed the inner planets, like Mars and Earth. This early Earth was completely uninhabitable. It was a boiling, turbulent globe of molten rock. As the planet grew, the physical reality became even more hostile. Over the next 10 to 50 million years, extreme heat and gravity forced a drastic internal reorganization. Heavy, dense metals, specifically iron and nickel, sank forcefully downward to form the planetary core. Lighter silicate materials rose to form the mantle and the crust. The surface temperature exceeded 2,000 degrees Celsius. Radioactive decay and relentless, unceasing meteorite impacts generated this extreme heat, ensuring the surface remained an entirely lethal, burning environment. Directly above the boiling rock, a suffocating atmosphere developed. This early air contained strictly hydrogen, helium, ammonia, and methane. It completely lacked free oxygen. The chemical composition created an environment totally toxic to organic life, and the atmospheric pressure was physically crushing. Any biological organism present would have died instantly from poisoning and physical compression. The physical destruction of the planet then reached a catastrophic peak. A separate planet measuring the exact volume of Mars intersected Earth's orbit. This object, named Theia, collided directly with the primitive Earth. The sheer force ejected massive quantities of rock and debris from both planetary bodies directly into space. This fragmented material eventually bound together through gravity, forming the moon. Furthermore, the violent collision permanently tilted the planet's axis, creating seasons and drastically accelerated the planetary rotation speed. The danger continued from the sky. Between 4.1 and 3.8 billion years ago, a relentless bombardment of asteroids struck the planet's surface. The kinetic energy from these constant strikes melted the newly formed crust entirely. Amazingly, these exact impacts also delivered complex organic compounds and the first water molecules. When the severe impacts finally ceased 3.8 billion years ago, the surface cooled. Liquid water accumulated across the crust, permanently altering the desolate landscape and physically preparing the environment for the emergence of biological organisms. They say gravity is what pulls everything together, but I know you're actually attracted to this video. Give raboscience a like to keep my motivation fueled for the next one. That subscribe button in the corner, it's literally crying from loneliness. Go ahead, give it a tap. These early life forms were microscopic organisms, but it wasn't until nearly a billion years later that some of these creatures would change the course of the world. Earth didn't remain a water world for long. Soon after, the first continents emerged from the ancient oceans. Scientists call them cratons. As more land rose from the sea, the planet's first supercontinent appeared. Valbera wasn't exactly a massive supercontinent. It was quite small. Scientists believe it was smaller than the continent of Australia. About 2.4 billion years ago, cyanobacteria evolved to become the planet's first photosynthetic organisms. Finally, we had microorganisms producing oxygen, making Earth's atmosphere much more livable, and the rest is history. Just kidding, we still have a long way to go. With this new surge of oxygen, Earth's atmosphere had much lower levels of carbon dioxide. That caused the planet to grow cold. Much of our young world froze over as Earth experienced its first ice age. Now, as the atmosphere changed, the continents moved too. They broke apart and recombined into the next supercontinent, Rodinia. Rodinia was a true supercontinent, likely the largest to ever cover the planet. And what about life? Oh, well, life finally became more complex. But then, something happened. Rodinia broke up and a new supercontinent formed known as Pannotia. Then, between 540 and 485 million years ago, there was an explosion of new life. This period is known as the Cambrian. The animals that evolved during this stage had hard body parts, like shells or spines. The most famous among them were the strange-looking trilobites. Around 440 million years ago, the climate suddenly shifted and ocean temperatures swung drastically. Earth witnessed its first mass extinction, the Ordovician-Silurian extinction event. Most of the life that had once spread across the planet vanished. Many of these life forms laid the groundwork for the ecosystems we have on Earth today. Between 420 and 350 million years ago, primitive plants physically penetrated the barren soil. Simultaneously, horrifying, unfamiliar animals crawled out of the water directly onto the dry land. By 250 million years ago, massive tectonic forces violently shoved all land masses together, forming one gigantic, inescapable supercontinent called Pangaea. This exact period triggered the most devastating mass extinction in planetary history. Massive, uncontrollable releases of toxic greenhouse gases drastically spiked global temperatures. The extreme, suffocating heat completely eradicated 90% of all living species on Earth. Billions of organisms suffocated and starved. Shockingly, this absolute biological death cleared the physical space for a new, terrifying phase of animal evolution. From this zone of widespread destruction, the first dinosaurs emerged between 240 and 230 million years ago. For 150 million years, these colossal beasts aggressively dominated the terrain. Gigantic herbivores like the towering Argentinosaurus crushed the vegetation and soil beneath them. Meanwhile, apex predators, specifically the massive Tyrannosaurus rex, ruthlessly hunted and dismembered other animals with brutal physical force. Concurrently, immense geological pressure violently severed Pangaea, forcefully separating the land masses into isolated continents. Then, sudden destruction descended from space. Exactly 66 million years ago, a massive asteroid slammed directly into present-day Mexico. The terrifying impact blasted millions of tons of pulverized rock high into the atmosphere, completely blocking the sun's light. The resulting darkness caused a catastrophic freezing climate shift, starving and exterminating the dinosaurs entirely. Following this freezing darkness, small mammals rapidly multiplied. Approximately 6 million years ago, the first early human ancestors, known as Sahelanthropus, appeared. Initially, they crawled strictly on 4 limbs. 4 million years ago, early hominids forced their spines upward to stand entirely on 2 legs. 1 million years later, these creatures physically chipped rocks to engineer the very first crude tools, using them to violently smash hard objects and bones. The physical danger escalated sharply 800,000 years ago when these hominids captured and controlled actual fire. The burning flames provided heat and cooked raw meat. Consequently, their physical brain mass expanded at a terrifying, unprecedented rate. They developed complex strategic group behaviors brutally. Between 40,000 and 15,000 years ago, Homo sapiens completely outcompeted and exterminated every other human species, remaining entirely alone. The Earth stood still 10 millennia ago as the first farmers emerged. These former nomads ceased their relentless wandering across the planet. They chose to settle. They staked claims in the dirt. This shift marked the end of an era and the beginning of a sedentary existence that would forever alter the face of the globe. The silence of the field shattered 250 years ago. The Industrial Revolution exploded. This was not a transition. It was a violent upheaval of technology, socioeconomics, and culture. Rural societies, once tethered to the rhythmic cycles of agriculture, vanished. They were swallowed by the steel jaws of industrialization and the suffocating sprawl of urbanization. Cities became concrete behemoths that consumed the natural world. The human population did not just grow, it surged with a terrifying momentum. By the year 1804, the count hit 1 billion souls. By 1927, that number doubled to 2 billion. Since the 1960s, the global population has accelerated at a rate that defies historical logic. It now exceeds 8 billion people. This massive, teeming mass of humanity demands resources that the Earth can no longer provide. The sheer scale of this growth is a statistical nightmare. Now, a lethal threat targets the survival of the human race and every other life form on this planet. Climate change is the predator. Temperatures rise, sea levels climb, biodiversity collapses. These are not distant possibilities, they are current, measurable disasters. The evidence is undeniable and chilling. The data reveals a world that is heating up to the point of total biological failure. The planet stands at the precipice of a mass extinction event. This is the direct result of human progress. The path of innovation led straight to a dead end. If the current trajectory remains unchanged, the global ecosystem will cease to function. The air will become unbreathable. The water will become toxic. The land will become barren. This is the reality that humanity must confront.